Hey Capsu crews, welcome back to Capsu Gaming. I'm your host Capsu, and today we're diving into another episode of Wapping with Capsu. This is all about having a fun conversation with you, the Capsu crew. So if you have any topics or questions you want us to cover, let us know in the comments below. Now let's kick things off by checking your character presets, familiars, buffs, EXP, MVP, Monster Park potions, Legion Green and Gold coupons, and we can't forget our WAP. Once we're all set, pick your favorite map to WAP. Today's conversation starts off with where we are in life. No, I don't mean the progression in our life, but specifically, where are we currently living in life? But it's not about the physical location either. It's the state where we put ourselves in. From my own perspective, I can see at least 4 modes we could be living in. If there are more modes you can think of, please let me know down below. I would love to hear more of the Capsu crew's insight. The 4 modes or states I can think of are Backseat, Past, Future, and Present. Now let's start with the Backseat mode. What is Backseat mode? Well, we often hear the terms Backseat Gaming. It's sort of like that, but instead of it being about a game, it is about our life. Living in the back seat, we almost feel like we are not in control of our life. Like we are watching our life go on without us. It's just a state we found ourselves in. Think of yourself being in a vehicle traveling to your destination. Suddenly, instead of driving, you found yourself in the passenger seat, unable to control where the vehicle is heading to. Thinking back to myself, there are times where I felt like I was going somewhere in my life, to then suddenly discovered my life was not in my control. Or at least it didn't go the way I had planned it to. Sometime this was my own doing, like I got myself into this situation. Sometimes it was because of the external factors, and sometimes it felt like I was forced to sit in the passenger seat. I can recall a time where I felt lost and just sat in the passenger seat in defeat. I know how it feels from both spectrums. All I can say is that if you found yourself in the passenger seat, don't give up. I know it's easy to say don't give up, but we should not feel powerless and defeated in the passenger seat. It's like, let me back in the driver's seat. I can keep going. I've been driving for 12 hours straight. I can go for another 4 hours, no problem. Oh, I wish that is true. But sometimes we are more exhausted than we think. And it's okay for someone you trust to take the driver's seat, or for us to even take a stop for a nap to rest and recover. It's the situation or circumstances that has put us into this position, not because of a lack of effort or commitment. The dream we sought for is paved with hardships and challenges. We will have setbacks. We can only plan as much as we can. Things can fall apart. Defeat and failure can make us want to crawl to the back of the seats and refuse to steer the wheels. This is the moment we need to have our friends and loved ones around us to help us navigate through these tough times. I know we are not all blessed or fortunate to have these vital support pillars. I know from experience what it's like to be alone, wishing someone would come and steer us into the beautiful sunset. I know I did. I got tired of watching my life go by without me. And the longer I refused to take control of the wheel, the higher the risk I would crash and collide. The key is to identify our situation. Like yin and yang, there is a push and pull effect. Sometimes we have to ride the current down the river, and sometimes we have to paddle and weave through the water and obstacles. Being too rigid and stiff with our mindset or completely giving up can be disastrous for our lives and mental state. If you are currently living life from the back seat or have a story to share, please let us know in the comments below. The next mode we have is living in the past, or being stuck in the past. Is basically past mode, a state of mind where we constantly live in the past or feel like our past strongly dictates us for who we are. When I was in high school, I was pretty much an idiot teen, and being an idiot teen, I did a lot of idiotic things. Some of these has given me a lot of bad reputation in high school. As I grew older into my senior years of high school, those bad reputation never really left me. I constantly live in shame and regret for my actions. It felt like no matter what I did or how much I improved, I felt like the past continued to dictate who I am. But I have long moved past that person I used to be. But yet, I still think about it and let it control my life. This is my experience with living in the past. Interestingly enough, other people may experience the opposite effect. Their best years was in high school or college, and they can't help but keep on reminiscing the good old times. Everyone experiences living in the past differently, whether it's something like the above or through traumas. Living in the past is a powerful shackle that is not easily shaken off. It took a long time of self-healing and self-discovery for myself to overcome this. A key component for me was to first forgive myself. Sounds kind of crazy and should be something easy to do, but it's definitely not easy, and sometimes it's not even that obvious. I was so appalled and ashamed of myself that I constantly kept looking for others' forgiveness, and when I could not obtain said forgiveness, you can imagine how I can spiral down further. And rightfully so. Everyone has a choice whether they want to forgive you or not. I can't expect to force others to forgive me. As long as I can redeem and improve myself to become better, even if others will not give me a chance, I should, at the very least, give myself a chance. Once I realized that was when the real healing process began, where I can restore my confidence and walk around with my head held high. The person I was in the past was true. Therefore, the people I have wronged has the right to feel how they feel. But the person I am now is not the same as before, and it's up to me to uphold that belief, and I don't need others' validation as proof. Forgiving myself was the hardest task, but it was my way of moving forward. I don't know much, but all I know is that you are not alone, and as long as you have that fighting spirit inside of you, you can be reborn as anyone you want to be. You don't need to box yourself in. You don't need anyone's permission but yourself. If you have gone through or is currently experiencing the state of living in the past, I would love for you to share your own experience. Living in the future. Oh boy, this is something I'm sure most can relate to. When your mind is locked in the future state, all you can think about is the future. But what does that entail? Isn't living in the future just mean having a schedule or plan? Isn't that supposed to be good? Well, yes, you are right. We all have dreams and aspirations, but the likelihood of it succeeding is dependent on our planning. However, living in this mode means you are unable to enjoy the things in front of you, as your minds and concerns are focused on things that has yet to come. Imagine you are going on a holiday. You've been planning for weeks or even months to travel. You have sorted out your travel plans, itinerary, food, and accommodation. Now it's time to travel. However, now you found yourself just thinking about the next location. You've arrived at a beautiful beach, but all you're thinking about is the hotel check-in. Then you're thinking about the food for tonight, or even about the work left back at home, or your studies and projects. We often find ourselves constantly thinking ahead, even though we have arrived at our destination we have always dreamt of. It's like constantly moving the goalpost. It's easy to get ahead of ourselves and not enjoy the things that is in front of us. We are worrying about the things that might not even be realistically possible to achieve, planning for things that have yet to happen, expending so much energy, worrying about something that it wasn't even an issue to begin with. We can only plan so far ahead. But when our whole life and perspective is solely focused on the future, we can become easily dissatisfied as we are constantly chasing goalpost after goalpost. Funnily enough, it could even be us who is moving the goalpost. I believe it could stem from the fear of failure, the thought that things may go wrong and that we are unprepared for it, an illusion to maintain control over something that is frankly out of our control. We can become restless and burnouts are more prone to happen. Are we truly living in the moment at that point? Planning is a good attribute, but don't be so fixated in maintaining that control. Don't be fearful of the future either. We all should have dreams and aspirations. Don't avoid thinking about our lives ahead, but don't be stuck just thinking about the future. We all need to have a balance. When we are in the present state, we are essentially living life as it comes to us. The present is a moment in space where we experience time and free will. Once time has passed, it can only be looked back upon, while the future has yet to come and can only be speculated. You are here, right now. It's the moment where we can experience time. There is no certainty of the future, but there is certainty in the present. Therefore, it is here where we can exercise our free will. Being in the present mode allows us to experience our life, our emotions, and make memories. It can feel like everything and nothing is happening at the same time. The oscillating pendulum effect of being conscious and losing consciousness. The awareness of your world. What do I mean by all of that? Well, I guess it's like when you're in class and it's 5 minutes before home time. If you are so present in the moment, it feels like time is slowing down. Those 5 minutes can feel so much longer as you experience every second to the fullest with complete consciousness. The opposite effect could be the same when you are totally in the present, engulfed in whatever you are experiencing. A movie, a game, or a conversation where you're completely immersed in the moment and time can become irrelevant, losing complete awareness of our time and surrounding. This is what I mean by the pendulum effects, where we can experience both. That sounds pretty good. Why wouldn't people just live in the present? Well, it can become addictive. The constant desire to seek and experience pleasure can enable us to be directionless in life. It's an inverse effect. Without foresight and planning, we could be living life with the constant pressure to perform in the moment. If we were given a task to do a speech in school without planning and practicing, to perform on the spot will be extremely pressuring of a task, which can lead to unsatisfied results. Another example could be from Maplestory. If we don't plan out events, keep notes of important dates, or have the discipline and foresight to save up meso to cube or star force on events, without saying more, you can probably imagine what could happen. Enjoy the present and the moment, but don't lose yourself in the pursuit for instant gratification. The past provides us the learning lessons, but it's the present that gives us the opportunity for changes and growth. As we can see, there are many takes or approach to each mode. There is good, bad, and a bit of gray areas. But ultimately, we must be able to live and oscillate between all 4 modes. There is a greater importance of balance as each mode exists with a purpose. The backseat allows us to rest and recover. The past helped teach us lessons for the present and future. The future helps us plan and navigate where we want to go, which can give us purpose, direction, or goals to achieve. The present allows us to feel, to exercise our free will, to be able to adapt to new changes as it appears, and the opportunity for changes and growth. It is important to have a balance and be wary of being stuck in a mode for prolonged periods. While there are many reasons why we may dwell in these modes, and by no means is it easy to break free from these modes, being aware can help you on your journey to understand and better ourselves. So, where are we in life? What is the state we put ourselves in? Living life as we are right now, there is always random and spontaneous things happening all around us. Life can throw unexpected curveballs at us, and it's up to our own free will and decision making to understand which mode to switch between. There is no set formula that we can always follow. The point of the video is just to bring awareness to the Capsu cruise. If you are happy with the state you are in right now, who am I to change that? At the end of the day, it all comes back to how you feel about the situation. If you are at a stage that you're unhappy about, you can take action to change that, as it is your free will. Otherwise, if you're happy to be where you are, then you are where you need to be. Just keep doing what you've been doing because your happiness is what's most important. It all comes down to choice. I've recently met up with a good friend of mine. He shared to me what he's been up to in his life, how his love life and work was going, and I listened intently, smiling until he paused. He looked at me dead in the eye, waiting for something. He then asked me, "Aren't you going to say something?" I tilted my head and thought for a bit until I slowly began to realize he was expecting me to judge and criticize him. The short story is that long ago he shared his strong, opinionated stance about how physical and romantic relationships should be exclusive and sacred. However, in his current situation, he has gone against his own belief. I sat and reflected for a moment, and I just kept smiling. And I said, "Well, buddy, you know, it's your life. Do what makes you happy, because I know you're making it work. Who am I to tell you to do things differently? It's not like you're here to ask for advice. All you're doing is just sharing your life with me. I'm happy for you. And unless you want to change your situation, of course, I'm here to support you, but I'm not here to judge you." He also laughed and said, "You're right. And I see you've also changed." I then asked him, "How so?" He was expecting me to tell him to leave this person and to find someone else better. But honestly, as far as I could tell, from what he was telling me, it sounded like he was happy and making it work. Why should I prevent him from being happy? If you're happy with who and where you are, don't be afraid of what other people think about you. He held my opinion highly and wanted to know what I thought. So I just told him that as a friend, I support him and I'm here for him whenever he needed me. We're always changing, and the person you are now will be different from yesterday and tomorrow. Changes happens gradually. This was true for my friend and myself. Sometimes it can catch us by surprise, and it's easy to forget how we were back then. For those who want to do something about it, I think it's important to accept that it's not an easy task. Because if it was easy, everyone would have done it already. It takes a lot of patience, a strong resolve, willpower, forgiveness, and self-love. Don't feel ashamed for what has happened, that being your mistakes or the current situation you found yourself in, because these things are normal. Our mind often drifts through the modes, and we shouldn't feel ashamed of these feelings either. I think that the more we try to push our feelings aside and deny these things happened, the more we become in denial of our situation, and it can become harder to move out of these modes. When we have those thoughts, I think we should just acknowledge that it's there and let it pass like water down the river. We shouldn't put ourselves in a never-ending cycle of regret, denial, and overthinking, but rather we should focus our efforts in finding the solution to move forward if we wish to do so. I'm going to land this plane and just say, the backseat mode is like we're watching our life go on without us. We have little to no control over it, and we depend on other people or other events to carry us through this mode. It can be a state we just found ourselves in, or a state where something had not gone according to plan and we're forced to be in, or a state that we didn't realize we needed. Many of these factors can be out of our control, or it can be caused by our own action. But this isn't necessarily a bad thing. Sometimes we don't realize how tired or burnt out we are. By letting ourselves be in the back seats, it allows us to rest and recover. Living in the past is a state of mind where we feel like our past defines who we are. It could be comprised of overthinking about previous actions, reminiscing happy memories, or thinking about sad memories, regrets, or wishing we could go back to a certain period of our lives, and many more. Everyone experiences the past differently. What happened in the past is a true event, and we cannot change that. But this does not define who we are as a person. It may give us experience and memories, but who we are today is different from who we were a day ago, a week ago, a month ago. Change is evident over large periods of time, and it may not be easily seen in a short amount of time. The past is an important state to reminisce and use as a reference point to how much we have changed. Living in the future is when our minds and thoughts are locked in the future state. The majority of what we think about is occupied by what's going to happen, that being long-term or short-term. This can take forms of dreams, aspirations, and future events, which are most likely accompanied by having a schedule or plan. The future state can make us disassociate in the current world around us. By constantly thinking 5 steps ahead, it distracts us from things that are happening in front of us. We could also put ourselves in situations where we are constantly moving our goalposts and not being content with what we have. Planning is a good attribute, but we should be wary about being so fixated in maintaining control. We all have dreams and aspirations. The future state is crucial to have for guidance and direction in our lives. When we are in the present state, we are essentially living life as it comes to us. The present is a moment in space where we experience time and free will. Once time has passed, it can only be looked back upon, while the future has yet to come and could only be speculated. There is no certainty of the future, but there is certainty in the present. Therefore, it is here where we can exercise our free will. It's the time where we set our past, while also pushing our future in a certain direction. The present gives us an opportunity for growth and change. Being aware and conscious in this state has the most effect out of all the 4 modes. It is this state where the most changes happen. From all these 4 modes, it is important to be aware of the states we are living in. Being able to transition from one state to another and having a balance of all 4 modes is a lifelong skill. As I have said previously, these modes of life does not have a set in stone formula that we can always follow. This is merely a guide that I refer back to every so often to ground myself when I feel stuck or unsatisfied. But what's most important at the end of the day is to do what makes you happy. We often forget or overlook the things we are blessed with, the things that are usually in front of us. And when I take notice of those blessings, I can't help but just feel content. Because if I were to do things differently, I don't know if I'll end up where I am now. I remember going to the fridge and grabbing a nice cold cup of Coca-Cola, filled it up to the very top, took it to my desk, and left it on the table. Me and the Capsu crew were scoofing around, and somehow their entire cup of Coca-Cola spilled everywhere. It was everywhere, all over the table, the keyboard, the mouse, the floor, and even the wall. I was devastated. We were devastated, and it was rough. After spending an hour or so cleaning it, I was feeling quite down and tired. But afterwards, the Capsu crews cheered me up, and we had the best time together, goofing around again. Everything was cleaned up, including my keyboard and mouse, which was overdue for a cleanup anyways. Everything worked out in the end, and I just feel so blessed to have the Capsu crew with me through thick and thin. After all the laughters, a thought crossed my mind. If I had the choice to go back and prevent the cup accident, would I still do it? After knowing that everything turned out okay and all the memories that have been made? To be honest, if I were to go back, I would still let the cup accident happen. Life is like a roller coaster with ups and downs. There is always a cost for everything. At the cost of a spilt cup of Coca-Cola, an hour of cleaning, we got to have a good time and make great memories together in return. If we were to undo that incident, then would we have to pay that cost with something we have right now? I wouldn't have changed anything about it, because where I am now is where I want to be. I hope you have found this conversation insightful, interesting, or controversial. I would love to hear the Capsu crew's take on these topics, and may we all live a life of love and bliss. Thank you all for listening, and happy mapling. This is Capsu, signing off.